This episode is brought to you by Tony Robbins and his legendary quote, "If you want to take the island, you gotta burn the boats."
Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast, my people.
My people, ¿cómo están, damas y caballeros? Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast, where I welcome people with remarkable stories for amazingly vulnerable conversations. This episode with Francisco Ramos was arrechísimo, chamo. Francisco Ramos is a Venezuelan-American stand-up comedian who was part of the first ever Netflix is a Joke comedy festival held in Los Angeles, United States of America. Francisco is one of my favorite comedians. He tours all across the states and regularly performs at the world-famous Comedy Store in Los Angeles, aka the world's largest and best comedy gym, and in my opinion, the best place on earth to do stand-up. I actually went to the festival. I went to Los Angeles in April or May of this year, of 2022, and I actually got to go to the Comedy Store and see a show with my brother Kurt, and it was just life-changing. It was insane. It was incredible. All the people you see on Netflix perform at the Comedy Store. That's how good Francisco is. A couple of things about Francisco so you can get even more excited about this episode. He can be seen currently on the Netflix hit show Gentefied or Gentefied. He directed, co-wrote, and starred in his debut comedy short, Zoo Animals, which was acquired by HBO MAX to stream on their platform. He also shot a stand-up special, Entre Nos, for HBO, and was a top 10 finalist on The Last Comic Standing. He's also appeared on Showtime's Shameless, and voicing the role of Marmoset in the animated film Rio. That's pretty big. And part of the Cartoon Network show Victor and Valentino. Francisco was chosen to be a part of Lorne Michaels' Más Mejor, which has become a premium comedy content studio powered by Latino voices. Building on that foundation, he directed and co-wrote Zoo Animals, which was licensed by HBO and can be seen currently on HBO Max. Zoo Animals was also accepted to over a dozen festivals, including Just for Laughs, where I actually met Francisco in the summer of 2018, because he was one of the new faces, which is probably one of the biggest accolades and honors you can get as a stand-up comedian, being on New Faces of Just for Laughs. And he was on the ethnic show of Just for Laughs. I mean, this guy is incredible. Last but not least, earlier in his career, Francisco was selected to perform in the CBS Multicultural Diversity Showcase, where he was one of 12 selected from a pool of 5,000 applicants. Having won first place in the Lucille Ball Comedy Festival, sponsored by NBC Cozy TV, American Latino produced a documentary on Francisco about his rise as a comic for Latino Out Loud, LOL. My friends, this guy is incredible. He's humble. He is self-aware, and this episode is just an incredible display of what you need to be successful in whatever you choose to be successful. I enjoyed it so much. Please enjoy in 3, 2, 1. Bienvenidos. Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast. Welcome to the unbreakable, the unmistakable, the highly capable Francisco Ramos. How are you, my friend?
Nice. I like that intro. I felt like it was about to box. Like, all right. Record 1-0, you know. But I'm ready to go. Nice. I'm good, man. Good. Very, very happy to be here. How are you?
Very good, man. We're at different ends of the spectrum in terms of weather. You are 60 degrees Celsius. I don't know what Fahrenheit that is in LA, and I'm in negative 16 degrees Celsius in Toronto, East Coast and West Coast. But there's a lot of things that unite us, not just comedy, not just stand-up, but also Latin America. You're one of my favorite comedians, so I'm super happy that you accepted the invitation. And I want to dig in a little bit about your upbringing. How did you end up on stage doing stand-up? Your new ventures as director and writer, and then to finish off, as always, the rapid fire section of the podcast. So thank you again for being here, man.
No, thanks for having me. Excited.
So I read a little bit about you, and I know that you were born in Venezuela, Caracas, but you've been in the US for a big part of your life. Before we started recording, you told me that you lived in Washington, D.C., where actually my sisters are at. And I imagine that because Venezuela, Washington, D.C., L.A., I suspect there are some other cities there. How and why did you go and live to the States coming from Venezuela?
Well, I was adopted by an American family. No, I'm kidding. Well, the reason is, I was born in Venezuela, and I was there until I was 12. The reason that we moved to DC was because my mom, she got a job at the Pan American Health Organization, which is part of the World Health Organization. It's like a international, organization job, that's what people, mostly a lot of like Latin American immigrants go work there, because World Bank, IMF, all the stuff.
My sister's at the World Bank and my uncle is at the World Bank. That's why they all ended up in DC.
They all end up there, and the thing is, like, it's kind of like once you're there, then you just stay there because the benefits, especially when you have a family, is so good because you don't pay taxes. A lot of people don't pay taxes because they're international. They're like diplomats.
It's like a cult. You can never leave.
It is.
So good.
Once you're in, you're in. You don't get out. Because it's so like. And that was the thing. We went there because we're supposed to be a 2-year contract, but it gets it kept getting renew, and then you're in.
This is around year 2000.
No, that was in 94.
Okay.
94. That's when we first moved. And we got there. It was just me, my sister, my dad, and my mom, and we moved there we lived in Maryland because in DC, as you know, it's like DMV area, which
Virginia.
is DC, Maryland and Virginia. We chose Maryland, like the out suburbs of DC, Maryland, and then I grew up there. Went to middle school, high school, college, and so that was like pretty much my teenage life. You
were ahead of the game because my wife is Venezuelan, and the millions and millions that continue. Well, the first wave started around 2000. That was crazy.
Before, we moved there not because it was just because my parents saw it as an opportunity for us to learn English and all this stuff. It wasn't because we were doing bad in Venezuela. Venezuela was doing bad. It was just. There were people. We used to go back all the time to visit. It wasn't like what it is now, where everybody's just left. Yeah. So
and also it was one of the 94 was a great time in Venezuela. It was like especially in the US too. I think the economy was starting to get really good. It was just like a good. I think with the 94 was just the only things that I remember that were just the whole like the O.J. Simpson thing and the World Cup
and the World Cup, and Tupac, yes, which I grew up while listening to Tupac because I wanted to be, because I was like my friends were listening to, and I was like, well, I gotta be cool, So I did listen to Tupac and Biggie and Bone Thugs and Harmony and all that stuff. So like whole 90s.
Me too. I thought I was the only one. There you go.
No. Hey, I bought the double cassette tape. I was back in the day. Cassettes. There's a double cassette of All Eyes on Me. I used to be listening to that.
All Eyes on Me. Okay, so basically, my first question that I was really curious about looking at your career, because in many ways I see a lot of similarities between your career and mine, and life-wise too, because when I was 10, I moved around a lot as well. When I was 10, I moved first of all, my parents are Peruvian.
Oh, okay.
And then but I was born in Costa Rica. When I was 10, I moved to El Salvador. Then we moved to Mexico. Then to Montreal than Toronto, all because of my dad's job. My dad is a drug lord.
Yeah, my dad is a fugitive, and
Yeah.
we had to go.
So then I actually came to Toronto, to Montreal and Toronto when I was 15.
Oh, okay.
I've been here ever since. So very similar, where
Yeah,
half of my life is in Latin America, and it's a big part of me because I speak Spanish with my family all the time.
exactly.
But the other half, or more than half now, is North America.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gringo enough for the gringos, but I'm not Latino enough for the Latinos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're like a different breed of that in between where you're not one or the other, so you don't feel like you don't belong to one or the other. So because that's always been my thing too. And I actually finally kind of like had like an epiphany or something, or kind of like an acceptance of myself earlier this year. Actually, just all this time, because I went to do some shows in Miami in Spanish. In Miami, there's a lot of Venezuelan, and the shows were for like a Venezuelan stand up. So it was just like a set that I just wanted to work on Spanish. I usually do English mostly, but I did it, and it was like a whole, like I felt like an alien, and they were looking at me like an alien, because I was like, I have like a Venezuelan accent, but it's not fully Venezuelan. And then the stuff that I'm talking about, it's not the stuff that they are talking about, because it's like, I think it's also like Venezuela, like after Chavez, it's like it's kind of like, it's like like AD and BC, it's kind of like, it's another so is a different. I didn't grow up with that. I have no idea the experience of living in that. So like so I realized, so after I did those shows, and then I finally when I'm like, why am I trying? The only reason I'm trying to connect is because of my family and my parents, and I want to be like, but then I also realized, but I've been here more than in Venezuela, most of my life. I'm more American than Venezuelan. So it's like, let me just do whatever I want. If I want to perform in English, or I want to do in Spanglish, or I want to just, I don't need to cater to like this Venezuelan audience that is living in Venezuela, and it's not because I don't want to. It's like, hey, like, let me do what I would like to do, and if you like it, great. And I'll talk in Spanish, and I'll talk in English, and all this stuff. But I'm not gonna try to do jokes about Venezuela that I don't even know about, and that I'm not even gonna have an experience of it, because it just doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna, So it's like, but I was trying in a way to do that all my life, and then I'm like, no, like That's why for me now, I'm like, look, I want people, and I want Venezuelan people to know me, but to know me for who I am, not 100%. Because I'm trying to do stuff that that is gonna like, that they're gonna like. And I'm like, no, there's other already Venezuelan comics that do that because they grew up in Venezuela all their life, and that's fine, but that's not who I am,
Totally. When I in 2017, I quit my bank job to do stand up. And
another similarity that we have together, because I did finance. I majored in finance. So.
Me too. There you go. Yeah. So I was immediately because I quit, and then we went with my business partner Juan. We went to Miami, Costa Rica, and Colombia to do shows, and it was like so evident when I was there that I was not part of the guys.
Yeah,
but exactly. I wanted to be part of the guys. Like I want their respect, because it's kind of like I left, and I want, like, that's still my home in many ways, because that's where I was born. So I kind of want the respect and admiration of them, but I'm not one of them. Exactly. And my stand-up is definitely not local. Mm-hmm. Not even my accent is Costa Rican anymore. Mm-hmm. So here I am trying to fit in, and it's like just and then a couple months later, I got a message to go to New Jersey, where the biggest Costa Rican population is outside of Costa Rica. And for some reason, the deal fell through, or I just didn't go. But I was like, bro, I am so happy, because I'm not the guy they were expecting.
Exactly. Yeah.
and it's okay, you know.
And
Now
it's fine. Yeah.
now I have other tools in my arsenal where I can entertain that audience. I
Yeah.
still know it's not my go-to audience, but I'm so happy that I didn't go die in that
Yeah,
show.
yeah. And it's also too like it's also like what to like it's your expectations of like as long as they know you and they
Yeah.
know it's then it's like all right, you're coming to see me or you're coming to know what I'm gonna do, so then you don't expect something else. Because I feel like that's what I've told a lot of people too. Since when they try to book me in Spanish, I go like, hey, like look, just make sure I'm not like, because sometimes they think it's like, oh, I'm gonna hire you because you're Venezuelan, and then we have a lot of Venezuelan community here, so they're gonna come because you're Venezuelan. And I'm like, yeah, no, but they're expecting something else. It's like it's like if they're going to a music concert, and they're expecting merengue, and I'm bringing Bad Bunny, you know, and they're like, no, we don't want Bad Bunny. And I'm like, sorry, I'm Bad Bunny. No.
No,
But you know
100%.
what I mean? Is that thing? So it's like, and I tried it too because now that I actually did in the summer, then in Miami, and then also but in the Dominican Republic, I did a Spanglish shows.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, I saw you. Yeah.
so yeah, so then that worked out really well because people, first of all, people knew me like in Miami. The people came to me, they knew who I was, so it was like they already kind of know what I do.
Yeah.
So it was, and they were like a lot of Venezuelans, but they spoke English, so they could understand like the back and forth and the
Yeah.
and the and the and the bits. And then in Dominican Republic, same thing. A lot of Dominicans that spoke English, and I did a lot of Spanish, a lot of crowd work, but I did a lot of the bits in English, so it worked out really well. So I think it's like that's the thing. I think it's like as long as people know what they're expecting, then I'm fine with it. But if you
Totally.
don't sell them, but that's the thing. What I tell them is like, hey, you cannot just bring people that, especially people that just want to hear stuff that I mean, like especially older people
Yeah.
that are immigrants that they just want to listen to the stuff. I mean, they didn't leave because they want to. They just want to go back to like the good times, for example, in Venezuela. So they want to listen to the music. They want to listen to and that's fine. But I'm not gonna do that. So don't hire me and expect to do that because it ain't gonna work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
The other thing I find is important, at least for me, the more that I do this, the more I know what my audience is.
exactly.
Like if I'm an immigrant, I'm a nomad, and
Exactly.
so nothing is just a strength or a weakness. Like our case of outsiders is also an asset because we have this different point of view where like you are, but you're not, you know? So that allows you to point out a lot of things on stage
Exactly.
that not a lot of people get. So I always try to say that one-liner where like I lived in all these countries all because of my dad's job. My dad's a drug lord. And then okay, ha ha ha. And then now they know like, oh, this guy's moved around a lot.
Yeah.
And then I say I left Costa Rica when I was 10. So now they're like, oh, okay, this guy's not from here. And it also helps me that knowing that they know that I'm not trying to pretend to be one of them in many ways. So when I see like a full white audience, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like,
yeah.
But when I see like all colors, all backgrounds, I'm like, yeah, this is my.
But to me, it's like I feel even like any kind of audience, even like when it's like a full audience, I guess because I've been here, I know how to approach that, you know, how to take that on, because I'm like, it's just about like introducing yourself like you did, like you're saying, like I'm from, you know, and then they just get it, and just to get it out quickly, you know. I used to do that a lot, you know, and I sometimes do it independent on the shows, but now that I've done it that I've been doing comedy for so long, now I just trust myself that I'm funny enough to start with something, and then I can add the whole thing, and I can throw in the Venezuelan stuff later, you know, or whatever, or like if I want to talk about it. But it's more about like, hey, I just, you know, I'm just going to talk about what I want to talk about. There are cases, you know,
totally.
if I'm doing like a longer improv, I mean, longer stand-up set or a type of crowd that I'm like, all right, I have to throw in this right in the beginning so they know who I am, so they can get it, what I'm going to talk about. But I was going to say too, like, I feel it's like being, like you said, immigrant and all that, and then knowing it is an asset too, because it's not just like for example, like you're saying about an audience, my audience is not strictly Venezuelan, it's all over.
Yeah.
People from all over, which I like because that's who I was friends with. That's who I want to do comedy for. I want people from every background to kind of connect with me in through my experiences in my life, not just Venezuelan. Because again, it's not. I didn't grow up all this time in Venezuela, so it's not like a lot of things that I like that I can connect with Venezuela because I wasn't even there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I try to connect more with the, like you said, the outsider, the kind of like seen from a different angle, the that immigrant kind of like life experiences that we go through, and like just and then just everyday normal person too, where you go like, oh yeah, this is just a normal dude, or like, or just like anybody can connect with, that's kind of like what I always like to do. Yeah,
I agree. Now listening to you, I do the same. Now that I realize, when I say that one-liner, when I want to establish with Costa Ricans especially, or like El Salvador or whatever. But now I'm like, man, I've been saying that one-liner since like 2016. I don't want to say it anymore. Some people already know it, so I don't want to say it. I just go straight to
and sometimes
whatever.
I feel like, and I think it's like sometimes you can just find ways. That's what I try to do now, where I'm like, it's just when it becomes organically. Like when I like now I do bits where I'm like, always like in the middle of the set or whatever, like it just be like I mentioned something about maybe like traveling or whatever, or being like an immigrant, and then I go like, oh, by the way, I was born in Venezuela, and then I go into that, but like it's not right away when I'm going like, hi guys, I'm from Venezuela, and because, and again, I used to do that when I was started doing stand-up, because I was a way for people, know who the hell I was right away, and then they could not, especially with the accent, and be like, where is he talking like that? Because that's the other thing when I tell people, like, if I didn't have like an accent, I would just have like a complete American accent. I mean, I wouldn't even have to, I would mention it, but it wouldn't be like, I wouldn't have to mention it at all if I wanted to, but it also, I feel like the more you do stand up, the more you trust yourself with
Absolutely.
and then you go like, yeah, I don't need, you're funny enough doing whatever you want. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's more about like, let me talk about what I want to do. And then, there's ways that you got to connect with people. And then there's there's tricks that you go like, well, it is an older white crowd in Omaha, Nebraska. Yes, I am going to say that I was born in Venezuela right in the beginning, so they can at least know, or have an idea of like, oh, okay, got it, But most of the times it's like, and the key is like also, the more you get a fan base, the more that you don't, obviously that's 100%. The beauty of it, but you don't have to like, you don't have to say that anymore. You can just be like, all right, yeah, it's like we know, so.
Yeah, let's go back a little bit to the beginning, because we both had that decision. I'm calling it like the LeBron James decision of quitting, but of quitting our full-time like corporate jobs to pursue this art form, where I'm very interested in, especially for our listeners, is growing up in Latin America or having Latino parents. In Venezuela, in Peru, a lot of the times, lawyer, doctor, engineer is what's expected. And it's not like you have to do this or else I don't love you. It's more of I think parents coming from, I don't know, being born in the 40s, 50s, it's more of I want you to have a solid plan, because I don't want you to eat shit. Like,
exactly.
And I want you, stability was very appreciated coming from the Second World War, the Cold War, and all, and like all these uncertainty. So my parents paid for my education. I went to the university here in Toronto. I studied finance, and then I went on to work at Scotiabank here in Canada for 7 years. But to me, it was like super nerve-wracking to quit, because I felt like I was being not grateful to my dad and my family for all the money that they, not just for university, but the money that they that they spent to send me here because I came here by myself. They were still back home, and it was tough for me, but I did it. Now it's been 6 years. I'm happy that I made that decision. Would I do it again? I mean, now that I see where it's led me, of course, but there were some hard times. What was that conversation like with you? Was it tough? Was there unanimous support? Did you know there was going to be support, or were they not even involved in this moment because you were already a grown up? I was 29 at the time.
No, I mean, I think, you a lot of similarities what you were talking about. I actually working on in a new bit about I think Latin parents, they make you feel guilty all the time so that you can do shit for them. You know what I mean? It's always it was like my mom's always like, you see how I'm taking care of your grandma because you got to take care of me. I'm 5. It's like why are you telling me this now? And I was like, I remember her forcing that into me, which is it's not like that's where I go talking about living in the US and comparing all this other stuff. That's where I go that's where you need a little more of the American white parents kind of give us a little more confidence and be no, you can do whatever you want. It's not just you gotta do this or and that's the thing, they don't tell you, but that you could feel it, you said,
you can feel it.
You feel guilty because it's I pay for it. It's but it's I should be able to do what I want to do. That's the most important thing. Not what you want to do, But yeah, I mean, for me, it was very similar. Growing up, obviously when I was in Venezuela, I was little. It was never. I mean, I could just see that my parents had my parent had his own. My dad has his own company. He used to distribute medical products to laboratories, and he had his own thing. And then my mom used to work in Oral-B as a marketing manager, all this. So it was very all about those corporate jobs growing up. And that was kind of, you say, that was because for them, that was in their generation, that was their dream, just because most of their parents didn't go to college or didn't finish college or didn't have, the dream for them was to be like you said, an engineer or a finance.
Working for 40 years in the same company was success.
Exactly. You get your pension, it's stable, and you do, But for us, I was I remember, so I never knew that there were other venues to do. I never even realized there were other opportunities to growing up all my life. I never thought and if I would have stayed in Venezuela, maybe I would never thought of. Maybe I could have, but being in the US and when I started my main thing was when I majored in finance. Last semester I had a class I was going to take that I thought what I wanted to focus on. It was called security valuations, something like that.
Yeah. I worked in investments.
And I remember I took it and wow, it was just complete. I was I hate this. What is, I remember
this is in DC?
In Maryland. I went to the University of Maryland. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's last semester. And I was it was so disappointing because I was how the hell, this is what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. And I just hate it. And that's what gave the beginning of I got to find something. And that's why I started working right away in an investment firm, and you tell yourself that is what I'm supposed to do. But I kept going back to them this is not happy. I'm not happy. And then I finally started going I had I would say a quarter life crisis where I would just go to Barnes and Nobles and read self-help books to find out what I wanted to do, because I would see my friends going they were happy with what their own okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do masters, I'm gonna do this. They had kind of their whole life was written for them and they were fine with it. And for me it was ew. To me it was that's not the point of life. I think I like more of adventure. I don't know what
uncertainty.
It's certainty and doing what I wanted to do. That's my thing. Because I was it would have been great if I loved finance, but I didn't like it, and and then it all led to comedy, and then I started reading those help books, and then so when I did tell so I started taking class.
How did it lead? What was the first step? Did you read a book?
Yeah.
Did you hear of a workshop?
No, I did one thing. One main thing was I read I bought this book which was called I was recommended, but I never know the title. I don't know, but it was like I don't know what I want to do, but I can tell you how or something. It was something like that, like the title of the book, where it basically helped you to find out what you liked, and then you would do exercises, and one of the exercises was like, all right, describe the job that you hate, and everything was basically what I was doing at that moment. So I was like, all right, now you know what you don't like. All right, now let's see what you like. And then everything that is always about, making people laugh and comedies and Whose Line Is It Anyway? It was very popular at that time. So I was like, well, improv and all that stuff. So it's like, so that was like the main thing. I was like, maybe. And then I read The Alchemist. I don't know if you read that.
Yeah, me too, Paulo Coelho.
Yeah, so I read that, and that's when I started looking at signs, and then I started thinking, people would come up to me randomly and be like, oh, you're funny, or like, oh, you should be like in a movie. And then I started going back to when I was in high school, and I was like, most likely, I want one of those superlatives, most likely to be in a movie or a TV was me. And I didn't know, stuff like that I was going like, And that to me, that's when I was like, all right, let me go take, again, Whose Line Is It Anyway was very popular. There was an improv class at DC Improv, and that I read online, and I took it. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell even my girlfriend at the time, nobody, my parents. And I started taking it. And the first time that I got there, the first class, when I was just there doing the zip, zap, zap and all that stuff, it was like, I remember going like this. It was the first time that it was weird, because the first time in my life that I felt that I was like, that I belonged somewhere, that I was, and I was like, whoa, like, that I was even better than most people, that you could tell that I was like, because I used to play a lot of sports growing up, because again, a part of fitting in, but I was never like, I was average. I was never good or bad, but I was never like, okay, this is the first time, like, if I was sport, I was like, well, I'm one of the best people in the team, kind of thing. And it wasn't arrogance.
It was validating.
It was just like, and also it was the first time that I wanted to do something. I wanted to keep doing it. I used to always get bored, and like, I wouldn't even finish video games. I'd be like, I'm so, I was just looking for the next thing. And I found this, and those 3 things were like, wow. So I finished the course, took all the course.
What year was this?
It was like in 2005 or something like that, around there. Took that for like a year, took all the courses, and that's when I started going like, all right, I like this. I want to become a professional or do something. So now that's when I started going like, all right, I need to move, either. And at that point it was Chicago, because I wanted to do improv. So it was either Chicago or New York or LA. And then I chose LA because I like the Groundlings, and which is a improv school. But also I chose LA too was because of like, I knew it was far, and I was like, because I knew for example, if I moved to New York, it was 4 hours from DC. I could always go back and forth, and maybe I would have just moved back or something, like I wanted to really make like a jump. And that's when I told my parents, and as you said, I think it's the fact that I was already graduated, I was already working. But again, talking about science, I thought they were going to go crazy and go like, what are you talking about? But I remember I told my parents, and I was like, hey, I want to move to LA to do this, and they were like, okay, which that for Latin parents, that's going like, go fulfill your dreams, do it.
Yes.
But that okay, kind of like that. That was like the biggest like push for me to go.
100%.
And then when I first moved, it was in the beginning. I remember even having conversation with my dad, like the first couple of months. It's like, you got to move back, and I'd be like, no, I'm doing this. I'm here. and don't you understand? I'm here. And like not in the beginning, because it's like, obviously it's not going to start right away, like the journey of it. But yeah, after that, so yeah, that whole validation from them, and it's funny because it's like, I was slowly, been all these years getting, doing a little more stuff and stuff like that. And then you could see the difference now. My dad died very early on when I started doing it. So he never kind of like, I think maybe he saw me perform once, I don't know, but he never kind of saw the whole thing. But my mom, you could see the change of her, where now she's so supportive, so much more of like, it's like she's like sends me like articles. It's like, hey, you should be in this movie. I was like, yeah, it's Christopher Nolan. Yeah, I love to be in that movie. But it's not like I know him, but like, uh, but now it's like could see the change of it, and also they see the hard work and they see the changes and all that stuff. But it's that whole thing, like you were saying, is like that generation. They never saw it as for them, even as a possibility, because it's kind of like if you don't come from the family, like talking about nepotism and all this stuff, is like they don't see it as a it can happen. But I think it's like no, yeah, it can happen. It's just having the awareness and to be like, you know what, I don't like what I'm doing. I want to do what I want to do, and if it's it's gonna be hard, but I just got to do what I want to do, and I'll be fine. Don't worry, I'm not gonna throw away my life, kind of thing.
I also feel like I'm not saying it's my parents' specific case, but I find that in Latin America, like if you say, oh, Francisco y Stefan trabajan para Google o para Scotiabank.
Ooh, yes.
It's como, oh,
exactly.
Because those are brands that they know of back or that works for American Airlines,
or Chevron or whatever. Yeah.
Toyota. But because these are brands that they've seen on TV,
Exactly.
But when they say he's a comedian, they're like, what?
Yeah. They don't even understand. They even think like you're like. They probably think like you're a clown. You remember those? I don't know if like in Venezuela, like there used to be circus coming, like los circos de los hermanos Rosario or something. Like
Fuentes Gasca. Sí.
Yeah, like it's like that's what they think. We're just a circus, and that'd be fine too. Like who cares?
Yeah, that'd be great.
They probably make more money. That's the thing people do. Like they don't even understand. I think now people are, especially now with social media and everything, now they're seeing the changes of like, oh, you can actually make a lot of money because back in the days too, in the 80s and 70s and 80s, like making like even here in the US, like making money as a stand-up was not like at all like what it is now. You actually do it because you just loved it. That's what you want to do. But there was now like you could make money, you don't have to be huge, but you can still make money, you know what I mean? And live,
absolutely.
So I feel like people in Latin America, they like, it is that whole, I mean, that's why I feel like the whole also classist, thing, that culture that the Latin America has because of like, it's like, like, oh, you work in Chevron. Wow. Okay, cool. Hey, like, who cares? What's the difference? Like, I could be a comedian or I could work in whatever. Yeah, it's the status. It's that whole thing of like dressing in the country club and all that stuff. It's kind of like, which is like, it's fine if you like that, but it's like that doesn't make you better than the other person because
absolutely.
The other person is, and a lot of people. That's the unfortunate part of that too. I think a lot of people do that because they're so afraid to get out of that bubble.
100%
of the comfort of it, which is like, that was the sad part when I told most of my friends in DC that I was leaving to LA to do comedy. The main thing that they told me were like everybody was like, wow, I can't believe you have the balls to do it. And I looked at them and be like, you can do it too. You're just afraid of, that's it. Because we grew up the same way. Like we're one of the few lucky people in the world that are, there was no, like we could follow our dreams, like we didn't have to take care of a family. We have to take care of our parents. We actually, so why not? You know what I mean? Why not?
100%.
It's like, but the people, most of the people are afraid because they don't want to get out of that bubble and that comfort zone because of like, oh, el qué dirán if I have a house when I'm 40, qué dirán si no tengo el carro and all that stuff. It's like, who cares? It's like,
absolutely,
like to me, it's like the best thing is to wake up and be happy. Because I got friends who are not happy doing what they like, and that's what I was very afraid to wake up. And before, you have the house and you have the cars, but you're miserable, and then you're just a funny guy at the parties. I'm like, no, and that's like no, because that's where you go. But like, wait, I'm good, or I'm like, I could do the same thing when you look at people on TV and you go like, I could do that. That was like, that's to me, imagine that. I'm like, oh, looking at that, it's like, oh, I'm the funny. It's like, yeah, but you could have done that. You didn't try. It was like the same thing as somebody has been an athlete and be like, you have that talent. It's like, at least try, at least, just, some people don't have that, like use it, I don't know.
Absolutely. And it's so much more comfortable to be the guy at the party.
Of course.
And be like, oh, I'm talented, but I don't do that because you're scared. And
you're afraid of failure. You're afraid of and that's, and to me, that's the beauty about it, because you learn through failure and you learn through the mistakes and you learn through that. That's like the whole journey of life. If you're always, I mean, to me, it's also too, it's like we're such a short life and we don't know when we're going to go. It's like, at least you want to be like, hey man, at least I did what I wanted to do. At least I try, I'm like, there's not, even if, we all have our dreams or goals, but it's like, it's at the end of the day, it's about the journey of it. You know what I mean? And to me, it's like, well, at least I did something with my life that I wanted to do. I just didn't. The worst is to me is like you're 70, 80 and be like, man, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have done that. It's like,
yeah, that was exactly one of my train of thoughts when I was quitting. I was like, a few things. I don't want to be the guy at the bar when I'm 70, be like, oh, I used to be a good quarterback in high school. Fuck that.
Right.
Like,
Uncle Rico.
Sorry. Yeah. So then the other thing was like, I was like, wow, I'm kind of feel a little not grateful if I not take advantage of the degree that they paid for and all these experiences. But I was also like, my parents couldn't pursue their dreams because they were parents when they were like 19.
Exactly.
And they sacrificed everything they did so that I could follow my dreams.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was like, this was like the straw that broke the camel's back here. I was like, what's the worst thing that can happen if I quit my job and I suck at comedy, let's say? The worst thing is I have to work at Starbucks. That is fucking amazing.
Yeah,
that is
and also
the epitome of privilege.
Yeah.
What's my excuse? Like, if I was in El Salvador or Costa Rica, I'd be like, oh no, because Costa Rica, there's not a market. If I was in Toronto or New York or Los Angeles, now I'm here. And then, but if I had a degree or a good plan, I have it. Oh, but no excuses. Like, what? And that's what really drove me to do it.
Exactly. That was my thing too when I first moved to it. Because when I first moved to LA, I also was very realistic, and that's my thing of like, I mean, growing up, I guess also in land where they don't baby you and they don't. So I was very like almost going like, well, let's see if I'm good at it. Let's see if it works. But I was never like going like, I'm gonna be a star kind of thing. So it's like I was very like, I need to. People need to tell me or hire me to be like, I'm good. And like, that's why when I first moved, I got a job when I moved here in a finance firm. My thing was like, especially the first years, I was like, well, let me start trying this. If it doesn't work out, I'll just keep working here. Like, there's no change. There's nothing, no bad happens. It's like, I just, but slowly as I started doing up at MAX, slowly I got into these things, and then I got a movie role, and I was like, okay, this, to me, there were the signs of going like, all right, I guess I am good enough to at least be here, stuff like that. And then slowly, then you quit the job, and then you start doing all the stuff. But it's like you said, it's there's nothing. There's nothing bad about it. It's like you can always, the best thing is, and also when you do stuff, that's where other good things happen. Yeah. Because it's never going to think how it is. You have a little plan, I want to get to there. There's always going to be things that you never expect that's going to happen. But those are the good things that are going to happen. And because you didn't get this job is because, but now you met this person, now you got this part, and then you do this and you do that. And maybe you still get to the point that you want to get to, but you went this other way that you never even thought of. That's what you needed to go through.
Yeah, I was like, dude, if I could make $30,000 a year, like doing anything, even just of stand-up or anything, I'm gonna be the happiest person alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because I'm miserable at these, and the being so predictable would drive me crazy.
Oh, that's my thing too. That was the thing that was like, I just saw my friends. Remember going happy hours in DC when I was still working there, and all they do is talk about how they were just gonna get the masters, and then they're gonna do this, and then I could just be like, oh, then you're gonna get married, and then you're gonna have kids, and you're gonna divorce, and then you're gonna be miserable. And I was like, your whole life, you know what you want to. That's so boring. Like that's so like it's like like it's just and also I could tell the difference too of the people that really like their jobs and the people that don't like their jobs. For example, in finance, like you could tell there are the people that were just, and most the people hated their jobs. There were just a few that were ones that really like, and those are the ones that were doing well because they enjoy, they stay late, they like that. For us, it's like like how we love comedy. They love the not, and that's great if that's what you want to do that. But like for other people, it's like they're just there, just counting. It's kind of like Joe versus the volcano, that movie with Tom Hanks, punching the clock and doing this and punching the clock and doing this. And it's like, and then you wake up and you're like, well,
you're 80.
Yeah.
I feel like it's okay if those people, they like it. But
that's what I mean. Exactly.
But we don't. So I guess it's like, obviously people are hearing this. We're not inviting you to quit your job and do comedy. No. Obviously, all we're saying, I guess, is like, just be honest with yourself. And
yes. What you like.
If you're playing that accountant game or that Deloitte game or that like engineering game, because that's what like you just did, and I guess this is the path that I gotta follow.
But if it's not your thing, then
that's not your path. If
be aware too that you can also, and also it's not like you have to go like I quit the next day and go. Like no, you can still find what you want to do by doing it at night, doing it on the weekends.
100%.
Taking a course, doing the things, meeting people slowly, and then it'll get to the point where like what happened with me. Like after 4 years of working that thing, I had to quit because I was going out on the road and I was doing all the stuff, but I had to quit the job. So I was like, I'm not gonna quit until I need it, and I finally had to quit because if not, I was gonna get fired because I was asking for 20 days off and all that stuff. So it's kind of like, that's what I mean. People, it's like you don't need to. You just jump and go like, you can find a ways, but you can still find ways, and then you also find ways of maybe it's not a thing that I don't want to do as a job, but as a hobby. All right, at least fine. You find that and it's your thing, but it's like. Yeah, I feel like it is a thing of people don't. Oh, I was gonna say that you mentioned that. It is a thing that we this is our personality. We don't like that. Oh, because I did have remember a friend that told me that he's like, hey man, I respect what you do, but for me, I need to know that I'm gonna get paid every 15th and 1st of the month. I need to have that stability. That's what makes me happy or makes me, and I respect that. Yeah, I respect that because he knows who he is. That's the point.
Yeah.
It's like who you are. If you like that, great. If you don't like that, then do something about it. But do something about it, not just
exactly. And I feel at the same time that you man, I just didn't want to. Every day that I was at the bank, I was thinking about comedy.
Yeah.
And that to me is, and even in university. I didn't know about, I knew about like what was stand-up, but I didn't know how to write it or anything. I had never taken a course. But all I was doing, I was just thinking of funny situations or skits or sketches and writing them down. So I was there, but I was never really there. Now, the fact that I'm very disciplined and responsible allowed me to graduate and everything. But those are the same transferable skills that now I use for comedy, because a lot of people think that it's just like, oh, you just go and you're funny and you say whatever comes to the top of your head.
A job, full-time job.
Yeah, and it's like being on stage is probably less than 1% of the entire day.
That's the easiest thing that I tell people. Like, you know what the easiest thing, like especially when I do shows on the road, the easiest thing is to do the show. Then the hard part is to get there, to book the flights, do all this stuff, to the hotels, pick up the Uber, drive, wake up early, all this other stuff that we all have to do it ourselves because that's the thing too. We're our own company, so it's not just performing. We have to do all the other administrative stuff and all the other stuff besides writing and the marketing and then all this other stuff, the podcast and the thing and the reels and all this other we have to do all that. I mean, so it's a lot of work, but that's why you can only like it, because why would you,
Yeah.
like that's the thing, doing all this stuff that we're not directly getting paid off, it's not like a job. It's not like we write a, like we do a thing. It's like, it's all to the company. It's having your own business in a way. And yeah, and I think that's why we're going back, going back to the thing. It's like, it's people that have your own business mentality, and other people that just like to be part of a company. And it's fine too. Like, I just love my 9 to 5, and then I don't have to think about work anymore, and I can just enjoy the weekends and stuff like that. I'm not like that. I'm like you, where 24 hours a day, I'm always thinking about like comedy or like work. I'm like, how to improve myself, or how to get to the next level. And you do need to have that. I mean, you need to be born with that. I mean, and I think I guess we're telling people, it's like, if you are like us and you're not happy with what you're doing, then do something about it, because it ain't gonna change, no matter how you do, no matter how you. But if you like the 9 to 5 and that's it, and just be part of a company and just don't worry about anything else, and it's fun, because that's great too. You can have a great life just doing that, so it doesn't matter.
I want to ask you about, from the moment that you decided, okay, this is not for me. You moved to LA, you start working in the financial company, you're doing stand-up on the side. When, like, if we were to give advice to somebody starting off their stand-up career in LA, in New York City, in Chicago, in Toronto, what are the things that they should be doing 100%? Because I know that a lot of people say, well, yeah, go to all the open mics. But, okay, that's just one part of it. Is it writing? Is it also, like, what things were you doing that are not necessarily common sense? Because I'm a big fan of, like, talent and skills are not enough. You always have to go above and beyond in many ways, because like Jim Carrey's journey is not going to be your journey, or my journey, or Theo Vaughn's journey is not going to be yours, or
we're all so completely different. Yeah,
we're all different. So besides talent, what things should they be doing to continue to develop themselves that were very valuable in your journey when you were in those first 3 years, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. For me, it was, I mean, I think it's what when I first moved here, and I told myself, I was like, I kind of like changed my whole life in terms of like when I was in DC, because it shows you of like when you're not happy with what you're doing with your life or who you are, you find, I think that's a human thing. Like, we fill ourselves with other stuff to do to kind of put out to fill that emptiness, that void.
100%. 100%.
So like partying, vacations, all the whatever, So for me, I was like, yeah, I used to do a lot of partying, going out. I used to promote parties and do all this stuff. So I was like very socially involved, and then, but then when I moved to LA, one of the first things that I told myself, I was like, well, I moved here to do comedy and to do stand and then to do, all this stuff. So I'm not going out at all. Like, that's completely done. And that's what I did. It became full 100% comedy, like all in, like the whole reason I was like, the job, like my job was working with the East Coast hours. So I would start at 6:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. After 2:30, I would hit the open mics every day. Every day I would hit open mics, sometimes 2 to 3, just literally Monday to Friday. You start hanging out with people, going to the big clubs like the Comedy Store and all that stuff. Then slowly you start getting involved in the world of your class. This is like my class, for example. And my class were people like Gerard Carmichael, Josh Adam Myers, Angelo Bowers, all these guys that are doing.
What is your class? The people that you did a workshop
that I started
with?
open mics with.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
So like that little class of like people that Amir K, all these other guys that we met during open mics, and we kept doing it, and we took it seriously, and you could tell there was also some talent to involve, and then but it was every day just think, and then even like after like 2 years of doing open mics or something. That's when I was doing the comedy store open mic a lot, and I started hanging out at the comedy store, and that's when I got asked to work there as a door guy. So like what a lot of comics have done, before me.
Yeah.
And even told him, like, look, I have a day job. I mean, I don't know if I can do it because I have to wake up at 6. I mean, I have to be at 6:30 and all. And they're like, no, we'll figure it out. So I would work so basically I would work sometimes like during the week, but mostly during the weekends. So like basically the whole, like every day, like the whole time I was just completely immersed into stand-up. Just like, again, not going out. When people come to visit me, I'd be like, I don't know, like where should we go? I'm like, I have no idea. I literally go to the job and the clubs, and that's it. I didn't know what anything was, because my thing was like, I came here for a purpose, and like that. So it was like, I think that's the thing. You just have to really like fully
all in.
It has to become part of your life. It is part of your life. You start. I mean, that's why I say to people, if you're a true stand-up, it's a lifestyle. It's not you're never like retire from it. So you're always thinking that way. You're always going. You're always like, I want to get up. I want to try this. I want to write. I want to do things. You're always like, and then when you start hanging out with normal people, then you're like, it's weird, because you're like, you're not used to that, and So So I feel like the whole thing is to really immerse into whatever you're doing. Like just really, because that's how you get. And also how you learn that's how I learned. Nobody taught me like anything that I did. I just basically learned it through watching and listening and asking questions. And then, you learn like the little things of like the stand-up culture, of like, who are the good guys, which are the good clubs, how much you get paid for this, how much you do that, like how to do all this other stuff. But it's just because you were just there the whole time. And like, that's what I tell people too. Like if you're going to, especially for entertainment, like being a comic, actor, musician, whatever, I feel like if you're gonna move to LA or New York or Toronto to do it, or you really gotta this has gotta be your life. You can't just expect like you can't 100%. Expect people, like you can't just be like, you can treat it as a 9 to 5 job. That's what I mean. Like you cannot. Absolutely. Like if you think you're gonna have I even had a cousin that wanted to do acting. I was like, he's like, yeah, but then we're gonna go party. I was like, no, we're not partying. Like if you move here, like it's just to do it. I'm not gonna go out. And he's like, oh, it's like, yeah, I'm not. Like, why are you gonna come here to just party or to do? Then you're not in it. Because especially for people like us, were like, not the fact that we're immigrants, but the fact that we didn't come from a family of artists or anything like that. So we don't even have an in or anything like that. We were starting from zero. So it's like, it's even harder. You have to work even harder, because it's not 100%. Like your dad can call and be like, hey, can you give him an audition, or can he have a meeting with whatever? No, like we don't. So we have to, we have to work triple so it's like, I feel like you need to have that mindset. If not, then, it is. I mean, I think that's the only thing. And you cannot teach that. I think it's like, you gotta know that it is a thing that you're like, well, this is my life, and I'm gonna just, and especially in the beginning, because that's what happened in the beginning. Slowly, then you start when you start figuring out all, then you start with a little more of a life, or more like stuff like that, how to balance it and stuff like that. Because it is also a thing of like, no, you cannot just but I feel in the beginning it does have to be like that in order to in order to get in. I mean, at least the first, again, my first 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, we're just like that, just completely, fully but now it's like, okay, now I do my stuff, but now I have more of a balance, which is good. But I think you need to gain that. You can't just start with that. I feel
100%. I also I agree, because sometimes I'm like, fuck, man, maybe I should like go for a bike ride or something. Like I can't all the time.
And it's good to do that, because you can get new bits if you want to talk about
100%.
You can explain. That's like, but I feel like
mental clarity.
It's still that, but I feel like you need to gain that to because now you know yourself. So now you can write, like, for example, I know how to write easier for me now. I know I'm like, oh, okay. So it's like, so it works. But in the beginning, like, you still gotta, I feel like, yeah, you need to really immerse yourself into whatever you're doing, because that's the only way too that you're going to know if you like it or not, if this is for you or not.
Absolutely.
That, you know, so it's like, and everybody does that. It's not just comedy. I mean, like athletes, you know, like the good ones, you don't see it, but they train every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. No Christmas, no New Year's, just working, just doing it and doing it. It's like, we have to do the same thing. I mean, that's Seinfeld. He would write for like, you know, like an hour, 2 hours every day, just like a little book, you know, everything. It's just like, I mean,
I want to get into that, because there's two, from my comedian friends and seeing my experience, I'm always curious about the writing of my comic friends, because when I talk to others, they're like, well, there's two ways of writing. One is like, you're just having a coffee and ding, something comes up, you write it down. But on the Seinfeld side of things, he convinced himself to sat down. I think he even put like chocolate chip cookies and a glass of milk to even lure himself into writing. And then you develop that muscle, that habit. And then, probably like 70% or 90%, 95% of the bits are going to be shit at the beginning. But as you work that muscle, then the numbers improve. What's your process? Have you developed a discipline, or do you rely on when things come up, or do you rely on writing on stage, or when you're on stage to if new things come up?
I do all of the above. I feel like it is a thing of like, you know, in the beginning, I would definitely sit down more and write the bits more, like little word from word and all this stuff. You know, like I gotta say like the, you know, and then now it's just a combination of of like, if I have an idea that I thought was something, I write it down. I mean, sometimes I write it down and then I'm like, all right, and then I try it on stage, just even the idea that I wrote, a premise or whatever, just to feel like, to see if like, oh, okay, this got legs. I can work more. And then I use that, and then I sit down and try to write more about the bit and try to make it longer, or, you know, if I got more tags, or make it a bigger.
Do you go straight for the joke, or do you free write a lot and then see what you can dissect that works?
So I go
straight for joke structure and straight for punch.
I mean, when I'm saying it on stage, I do, just to kind of like But then I go like, all right. Then I go back. Then I go like, all right, what's the premise, the universal premise, so everybody can get it, you know, how to get into it as quickly. And I write a lot, and then I start cutting stuff out. I'll be like, all right, I don't need that. That doesn't. I need to get to the, you know, to the punchline faster and all this stuff, and then I can have more time here to do it. So it's like, it is a combination of, and I think, I said, the more you know yourself. The more you it's easier for you to write, where you need to like write it all down, but you go like, okay, I can say this in, and there's sometimes that I go like, oh, I know if I say this, it's gonna be people are gonna laugh just the way that I'm gonna say it. You know, there's stuff that I'm going like, okay, now I know that, okay, this is gonna hit, and it just like, it's gonna hit all the time. And like, there's ones that you go like, oh, this is great. There's other ones where you go like, oh man, I know this is a good bit, but I just gotta find a way, and you like just keep hitting it and find ways. It takes, you know, a couple of months, you know, sometimes to just get one to be like, oh, okay, finally I found it. But other ones are easy. So it's just a combination of writing. I mean, I feel the whole writing sitting down is good if you even just want to write for 10 minutes, because you can even if you want to. Not even if you want to work on new bits, but even work on the other bits to make it stronger, or make it longer, or make it add more tags to it, or more thins. You know,
Go ahead.
Sorry, no. My thing that I always do is when you go up, it's like, always have a purpose of why you're going up. Like, and it could be, all right, tonight I'm going to work on my performance and my energy, or tonight I'm just going to work on this one bit, or tonight I just want to work on adding a new tag, or whatever it is. Just have something, so then it doesn't become repetitive. If you're doing the same bits all the time, you know, like if you have the same bits all the time, try to add one more tag to it, try add one more thing to it, one more, you know, like, don't always have a thing of like, and also don't try to do too much either. You know, I feel like sometimes I want to work a lot of it. Like, nah, people don't know you. Try to do well, add the new bit in the middle, and then that's it, and then work on the other run. Or like, I mean, it depends on the shows too. If there's shows that are like more bar shows that you want to work more stuff out, then yeah, do more. If they know you more, you're allowed to do more. But like, don't try to do too much either too. I feel like it's like just work.
Yeah.
It's better to just work on one bit and get it stronger, or
less
work
is more.
Or in your performance or whatever it is. Because sometimes the performance, that's what people don't realize too. It's not just about the writing, the performance, man. You have to like bring, especially for me, I'm the type of guy that I get. People laugh a lot. It's a combination of, but they laugh a lot of how I say it or how I put it.
You have an incredible delivery, man.
Yeah, so it's like I need to always remember that, because if I don't do it, then I go like, why didn't that bit work as well? Because you didn't, bring the energy much, or bring the energy, or whatever it is, like. So it's like it's a combination of both. It's just like, going back to being an athlete, it's like you work on the drills, but you also got to work on the the stamina. Be like, all right, I'm ready to get energy to perform, and then go and do it.
Is there a specific time of day where you feel you are more in the mindset of writing, or more creative, or mental clarity? And a second part to that question is, where do you keep your bits? Because as you progress, I'm like, fuck, what happened to that bit? I didn't write it down. So I have a document, like also by categories, like immigration, family, relationships, sex, sports. And do you have, so what time of day is best for you, and where do you keep your bits and your rough drafts?
Morning for sure is my when I feel like more creative. Morning.
After working out, before working out?
No, I work out like more. I actually worked out more like in the afternoon, or like early afternoon, stuff like that. I that's why, because I know, like, I mean, I would have to like, I mean, unless I would wake up like at 6 a.m. to work out and then go and ride, then yeah. But I feel like, since I'm not waking up that early, I prefer to write or be more creative in the morning, where I'm like more like, I'm just
mental clarity and resting.
I'm more creative. I just think quicker, or like, I think after towards later on that, when there's more stuff happening and more stuff, then, I guess you're more tired mentally, whatever. So I'm not ready to like, and I don't know it works well too for my stand-up too, when I work stuff in the morning, and then I can just try it out at night. But sometimes what I do, sometimes I go, it's like, hey, I know I have a show and I want to work stuff out or whatever. And then I just go to a coffee shop or something, and at least maybe write or work on it in an hour before I go do this. So I have that kind of like like that clarity of when I do. But mostly in the morning. And then where I keep my stuff, I have notebooks. I have Google Drive. I have the phone. I have my notes there that I write new bits, but also have like, and I'm like you. I categorize my bits into categories, so it's easier for me to then remember. If if I'm talking about family, there's all family stuff. It's all talk about like, health stuff. Is all about health stuff in one. So it's easier for me to then go, especially when you're doing an hour, it's just easier just to, so I definitely, but I keep it everywhere. I feel like it's like now with phones, I'm cool with writing stuff. Sometimes I do like to write stuff because it makes me memorize it easier when I write it stuff, like actually write it. But then I also have computer stuff where I can put all when I have like more of like a bigger like hour or whatever, like, okay, I want to just put everything here so I don't lose it or whatever, so.
I love it. Before we go on to the rapid fire question here to close off, I want to ask you, is there so for the people who don't know, Francisco performs at the world famous Comedy Store, where literally, probably, if there's a place on earth where some of the best stand-up happens, it's there.
Yeah.
In New York City, there's a couple other places, but I've been to the Comedy Store, and it's
like the best gym in the world, I guess.
Absolutely.
Like, in terms of like, I feel like that's where like, yeah, it's the best gym. It's where like basically all the whatever are there. So then, because it's not just performing there, but being there makes you
100%.
But for me, I always say like, talking about masters that all my friends they took. I took masters, but in comedy because I worked
Absolutely.
2 years at the comedy store as a door guy. What I would work and my main job was to sit people and then just watch the show. So I would watch the show from 9 to 2 in the morning. So it's like you see all this. The way to open, the way to deal with hecklers, the way to go up when there's nobody there, all this stuff. And it was just a class. I mean, it's also because I learned it when I first started doing comedy. So it wasn't like I was doing comedy in DC and then it was just completely raw. So so for me, the comedy store is definitely, I'm a store guy. That's like the comedy, the club that I started. And I'm like, and we have all that. Being a comedy store guy, it makes you be able to perform in any situation. I feel.
100%. Who are your favorites, and who have been your mentors at the same time? And is there any advice early on in your career that marked you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, well, there hasn't been like a mentor for me, where like somebody just like took me on the wing or anything like that, but I definitely,
or your closest friends that have
became people that I like, that I want to gravitated to, or that I talk to. I mean, the one that is always like, that is the one that I was like, oh, this is kind of like what I want to do with my career, was Sebastian Maniscalco.
100%.
I mean, because he was there when I started, obviously, and then he was already, and I just like his whole, I mean, not just his material, because it's very universal and about his life and stuff like that, which is what I like to do, but also the way that he would just handle himself. He would do his thing and then go home, and then, he was very like, walk in and like didn't say hi to anybody, but like, for me, I don't know, he started like talking to me, and he was actually one of the first guys that took me on the road when I went to DC.
No way.
I opened for him. I mean, I was like, hey, I'm from DC, so can I open for you? So it's great. So it's like, so for him, he's definitely a guy that I'm like, that I was like, okay, this is kind of like, and I never even thought he was going to get to the level that he is right now. That's like amazing, like now he's selling arenas and stuff like that. But, and then another one was Ian Edwards, was a guy that he started talking to me also early on, was at the comedy store, and he did tell me one good advice that I always remember, which is always like, just do any type of room. Like don't just do the rooms that are like the audiences that you think are gonna like. Just do any type, doesn't matter, because you learn how to do comedy. And I did that, I remember when I first moved here, there were Latino shows, and most of the Latino comics would just do that. And I was like, no, I mean, I want to do other ones. I didn't want to. And also because the Latinos in LA, the audience were not like, I didn't even relate to them as much, because they were like Southern Mexican from LA, and it wasn't like, and they were doing this local bits that I was like, this is not what I do. So I think the best, that's a great advice, is just to do as many rooms as you can. It doesn't matter. And then another comic too was Steve Trevino too. He took me on the road early on, and also I learned how to just being on the road and having like how to deal with like clubs, and how to deal with the managers, how to deal with the wait staff, and all this other stuff too. So like those are the main things when I first started, and then there've been other ones that I've been on the road with as well that have been great. Yeah.
I love it, man. So very quick, rapid fire to end up. You don't have to like respond rapidly, but if you can, it's more excited. Okay, so here we go. Name one thing you've done in the past 3 months that makes you feel proud.
In the past 3 months, that makes me feel proud?
Yeah.
Ooh, just getting better in shape.
Nice. If you could invite 3 people, living or dead, to your home for dinner, who would they be? Could be celebrities, could be relatives, could be politicians, could be athletes.
All right. I guess one would be Leo DiCaprio.
Oh, I thought Messi.
Well, Messi would be great, but Leo more because of the acting. Martin Scorsese would be one.
Wow.
And then And then my dad would be cool. Yeah, that'd be great. Have my dad.
Nice. Complete the following phrase. I lose track of time when I...
When I'm I guess when I was gonna say when I'm having sex, but that's not. But that's just a quick time. That's just very quick. I think when I am hanging out at a comedy club, definitely.
Nice.
I think when I'm just hanging out and talking to other comics after I did my set, I really, you just lose the time where like, oh, I'm gonna leave, and then it's like 2 hours later and you're still there.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that the Comedy Store has that vibe. I've only been once, but
yeah, you just hang there. The other day I went for a holiday party thing. I was like, I'm just gonna be here for a half hour. Like 4 hours later, it was still there. It was like,
yeah, I saw the Fahim Anwar's special, at the store, and just the background of it and everything. You can just it looks like a cool place to hang out. Okay, what are two to three things that you've always wanted to do that are still on your bucket list?
I think definitely like being in a mafia movie. I love like that. Like not being funny, but like being an actual like Goodfellas, like Godfather kind of thing. And then I think the next one would be to just being able to have a name where I can just produce a show for another person to like where like my name is enough to be like, all right, fine, to get to that point, Yeah.
Nice. Okay, two more. If you could start a charitable organization, what would be the cause?
Me. It's a GoFund so they can get money. No. No, I think it'd be for children in Venezuela, for the arts or for just to fulfill, I think something related to that, especially like my dad came from a very poor neighborhood in Venezuela, and he was one of the few ones that graduated and went to school.
What was it called?
The what?
What was the town called?
It was called in Caracas, but it was in Katia, which is like it's like a poor part of Caracas, and like so I would love to like be able to like set up a foundation especially to help people around there, especially kids, to be like give them the opportunity to go to school to learn stuff, but also to not just school, but to do their dreams, what we just talked about.
I love it. What book have you recommended most to others?
The Alchemist. No, that's the one that I always go to. Yeah.
I love it. And then the last question that all of the guests get, it's called the champagne question. And it goes like this. If we were to meet a year from now, 2000 and almost 24, 24, yeah.
Yeah.
What, if we were to meet a year from now with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating in Francisco Ramos's life?
Second season. We got picked up for a second season.
That's amazing. Of your show, so basically, Francisco has wrote and directed Zoo Animals on HBO MAX, and you got picked up for a second season.
Well, another show, because that's just a short, but like of another show that I've created already. Then we're celebrating that we just got picked up for a second.
Nice. I love it, man.
Not just because it got picked up already. So I was like, the hard thing is to actually get picked up for a second season. But
that's amazing. Well, my friend, dude, thank you so much for being here. This was life-changing. I didn't expect for us to talk about literally pursuing our dreams as much, but I love it because I'm all about it. It sounds cheesy, but do something about it,
That's my thing. I don't think I think I always like to talk about it because hopefully somebody hears it and they do something about it. Like I have a good example of a young guy that I did maybe like 4 years ago. I did a college in Oregon, and I guess he opened for me, or he did like 5 minutes before, but then he's after the show, he asked me a question. I want to be a comic, and I told him all this, quickly all the stuff that I do. A lot of that happens a lot when I do colleges, but nobody follows up. But this guy, he moved to LA. I mean, and then he started doing comedy, doing open mics, and then he started living. And then he called me up. He's like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm doing all this stuff." I was like, "Oh, great," And then he kept calling me, and then he's like, "Hey, now I'm working in I lived in a YouTube influencer's house, so like I know how to do now all this like reels and all this stuff, so I could help you with this." And I was like, "Ah, okay." So then now he's been helping me all this other stuff like with the social media stuff because he knows all this stuff. But
Wow.
I'm like helping him with like all this comedy stuff that I know, like, and we're kind of like, and he's doing it now. He's doing a lot of shows. He's been working with other
Wow.
people that I'm recommending him to, and all this other stuff. And he's actually doing. He's like, dude, if it wasn't for you, I would never thought it was possible, and all this stuff. So it's like, it's cool that that I could help somebody do what he wanted. He's doing it. And going back to the thing is like, he's also his personality too and his drive that he's doing it too, because
Absolutely.
I give him the like all this advice and all
Tips.
other stuff and tips, but you have to do it. And then like
You
I
have to
see
execute.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I see how much time he's performing here and he's doing this and he's going on the road with this and he's going on this. So he's also doing it. So I'm like, all right, great. That's the way to do it, where you're like, because we all can. I mean, I love to help people out, but you also have to help yourself out
100%.
because
100%.
it's not me giving you the stuff. And also, you don't want that. You want to, if we're going to work together,
Earn
we want to collaborate and earn it. It's not like you don't want to just handed it to you. That's not
Yeah.
fun.
And even if you get it right at the beginning, you just peak too early.
Exactly. You're not even ready for it. You're not even, you gotta, so it's like, so that's a thing. That's why I would say like, it's not cheesy talking about all this stuff because I mean, I feel like the more you talk about it, the more people hopefully, because I feel that's in a way what the world really needs. Like if more people were doing what they really like, it would be a better world. I think a lot of people are
100%.
just so annoyed with their life. They're just bitter all the time because they're not doing what they want to do. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like
And in the end, they're so miserable. They treat the people who are around them miserably. And then those people go on and treat others miserably.
And it becomes a cycle. Yeah. And that's actually one of the things too that I actually just remember. I mean, like when I first had that breakthrough, when I was working in DC, and I was like, that was my other thing too. It's like, because I remember I was also starting to get bitter all the time, be like just being annoyed with life. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to like keep doing this and then get married and have kids and then just be like miserable to them just because I'm not happy with me. Yeah. And then you push it. And that's another thing too. It's like the main thing is like, you gotta be like I think that life is like, it's like a lifeguard. If you want to save people, you have to save yourself first. You have to learn how to swim first. You cannot just try to help people and not even like yourself or not doing what you're doing. You gotta, in a way, be selfish to be in a way by being happy with what you are, and then you can be. But you can't just not be happy with what yourself and then try. I don't think that works out. In the long run, you know what I mean? So
absolutely, like Tony Robbins says, like I used to achieve to be happy. Now I happily achieve. That's what, because all the time I used to be like, oh, when I get to Comedy Central, when I do these shows, well, I'll be happy. But no, man, you got to put in the work now, not just on stage, but inside, so that you can have a life that's worth living. Because otherwise, you're just going to be miserable. Oh, and even if you get that, whatever it is, then you're just going to extend the finish line. And when I get to Comedy Central, now I want Netflix. No, now I want, and you're just going to be miserable this whole time.
Exactly. That's another thing too that I learned, that I also been learning too, and I've gotten from stuff that I've gotten in my life, the few things that I've gotten, where it's like, when for me, or I know when stuff is good, whenever I get the stuff, I go like, okay. Like, and it's not because because that's where I go, like where happiness, like the fact that I got this stuff, it didn't make me happier. It was just like, cool, let's do it. The journey of doing it is what should make you happy. If you think the result is gonna get you happy, then you're fucked. Because like you said, then you're gonna always be like, well, I mean, and I see it. I see people, comics, that are much better than me. They're talking to my face and they're complaining about the stuff that I wish I would do. Was doing at that, and then I'm like, then well, you're never gonna be happy. It's like you always like
exactly.
It's like wait, it's like, oh, I get nominated for an Oscar and then I'm mad that I didn't win. It's like you got nominated for an Oscar. It's like you should. It's like that's amazing, So I think that's the key. It's like they'll just don't. That's the only thing too, and that's with not just comedy, with anything. It's like you think that
life.
if you buy the house, that's gonna get you happy, or that you get the job is gonna get no. You should celebrate it. It's like cool, but it should not change your life.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't get it, then what? You're gonna be then is everything is about what happens. Then you're always going like this. That's not normal,
And there's a lot of studies that just say that it's just a peak of
like
excitement,
exactly.
and then you go back down to your average.
Exactly.
And if your average is shitty, then you're gonna live a shitty life. You have to work on yourself, and that's why when I quit my job, I was like, there's no such thing as failing in this decision, because in the trying, I'm becoming so. First of all, I could just go back to the bank in a year or whatever.
Exactly.
But in that trying, I'm becoming somebody else. That, first of all, that the type of person that takes risks, that fights for what I love, that goes all in my endeavors, in my passions. And then I become the type of person that luck follows me, as opposed to just like having Hail Marys all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if I catch this touchdown, I'm going to be happy. But it doesn't work that way.
Exactly. And it's like you said, it's a drug. It's like, if you're not happy with who you are, then when you get stuff, it's just it's like a drug. It makes you high at that moment, but you're going to come down, and then you come down, and then you're going to be mad, and then you need more of the drug. I mean, that's what drugs is. It's just filling a void. So if you're not happy, it's the same thing of like with what you're doing in your life. It doesn't matter what you get, because then you're always going to find. And then when you don't get stuff, then it makes you even sadder. It's like, then it's like,
exactly.
you cannot have. So it's like, and I think that's the best way. And even to get stuff, especially in this industry, it is having that thing when you don't really care. When you go to an audition and you don't, and when I say care, you don't care about the result. You do care about your performance, and you do want to be you prepare, you do the best, but you don't care if you get it or not. You don't care if they like you or not. And that's when you get stuff. That's 100%. That's when you really, but it has to be genuine. It has to be 100% genuine, because it has happened to me too. When I'm like, nah, okay, I got it. Whenever I want something so much, I don't get it. And that's because, I wanted too much. I'm putting too much expectation on a fantasy world, and these people, and where I'm like, where it's like, where most of the times it's like, no, it has nothing to do with you. You just need somebody taller or older or younger, but you take it personally, it's like, nah, man, it's like, so it's very hard. But that, to me, that's the key to also be.
The way I see it is like I'm committed to greatness, but I'm not attached to the result. You know what I mean? I'm not, and like more importantly, like my self-worth is not attached to being on Netflix or Comedy Central or blah 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 or Just for Love, because like I'm happy if that comes, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, that's fine too. And ironically, by investing in yourself and being happy with who you are and pursuing things that you're passionate about, as a result, you're going to be better, and you're going to invest more time, and those things will come as opposed to pursuing them because, I'm going to be happier or better. And then like the world has a way of sneaking out the people who are just like in it for the rush.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or for the fame, or for the
fame,
the clout and all that stuff. It's like, it is like that. We all connected, so we know it. We know when like people, I'm like, where you just want, I'm like, oh, this person's, they just care about fame so much. It's like, no, you're not doing it for what it is. So yeah, so that's all completely true. Yeah.
Dude, we went overboard here. We passed the time, but I'm so happy, man. This was so great. Thank you so much for your time. I really admire you. Keep doing what you're doing. When
Thanks,
I go
man.
to LA, I'll text you, and hopefully we'll be able to get you to Toronto soon so that everybody can see the
Yeah,
incredible
love to.
things you're doing on stage,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for having me, and then definitely looking forward to working together.
Stephan Dyer and Francisco Ramos on the Stephan Dyer podcast. Ciao, ciao.
Gracias por escuchar el Stephan Dyer Podcast. Arrivederci, my people.